The stories I tell here are not for just anyone, and today's might be the most disturbing yet. Gilles de Rais, a name that once stood for bravery, a French hero who fought alongside Joan of Arc, but who also became one of the very first serial killers history ever recorded. After the glory of battle, he plunged into an abyss with no return. Mysterious disappearances, children who never came back home, castles hiding secrets behind locked doors. Some say what he did in those rooms goes far beyond what any legend dares to tell. So stay with me until the end, because tonight you'll hear the story of a man who rose to heaven and may have dragged hundreds down with him. Subscribe now and come with me. Before being remembered as one of the cruelest men in history, Gilles de Rais was seen as a hero. He was born around 1405 into one of the wealthiest and most influential families in France. He lost both of his parents at a very young age and inherited an immense fortune, castles, lands, gold. Intelligent, well-educated, and hungry for power, he quickly stood out as a knight. During the 100 Years' War, he fought bravely against the English alongside none other than Joan of Arc. He was one of the commanders who helped liberate Orléans, and for that he was honored and made Marshal of France and one of the highest military titles of the time. To the people, he was a savior, a symbol of courage and patriotism. But behind the shining armor there was something dark, something that was already starting to show through in his extravagance, his absurd spending, and his overwhelming vanity. After the war ended and Joan of Arc was executed, Gilles lost his purpose, and that was when he began to drift away from the battlefield and into darker and darker pleasures. The hero was fading, and the monster was waking up. After Joan of Arc's death, Gilles withdrew from the wars. He began spending his fortune on lavish banquets, grand theatrical productions, and clothes embroidered with gold. But nothing seemed to fill the growing emptiness inside him. Slowly, his interest in parties gave way to something much darker. He grew close to alchemists, magicians, and occultists. He believed that through rituals and invocations, he could regain the wealth that was slipping away, and perhaps even gain supernatural powers. And it was during this time that the first whispers began. Peasants noticed that children from nearby villages were disappearing, never to be seen again. People said that Gilles would hire young boys to work in his castles, but no one ever saw them leave. The cold walls of his halls hid terrible secrets, with rituals that mixed superstition, ambition, and cruelty. And yet, for a long time, no one dared to accuse him directly. He was still a powerful nobleman, still, to many, the hero of the war. But the rumors kept growing, and the truth, no matter how much it tried to hide behind the castle's heavy curtains, began to reveal itself. For years, the rumors circulated through the fields and villages. Children disappeared, families wept. But no one dared to challenge such a wealthy and influential man. Until in 1440, a political conflict finally lit the spark. A relative of one of the victims filed a formal complaint, and the authorities began to investigate. Soldiers were sent to Gilles' castles, and what they found there confirmed the worst fears. There were hidden rooms, suspicious instruments, clothing, and remains that no one could explain. Witnesses began to speak. Servants, peasants, and even accomplices revealed the horrors they had seen. They told of how children were brought to the castles, often with promises of work, and were never seen again. They spoke of dark rituals, invocations, and a man who no longer seemed human, consumed by vanity and an obsession for power. Gilles was arrested and brought to trial in Nantes. During the hearings, he at first denied everything. But faced with the avalanche of testimonies and the evidence collected, he eventually confessed, perhaps pressured by torture and the fear of the fate that awaited him. The war hero now stood before a tribunal, not as a knight, but as a monster before the people. In October of that same year, he was convicted of heresy, sorcery, and the disappearances. And so, before everyone, the myth of the hero finally crumbled, leaving behind only the shadows of what he had done. And on the day after his sentencing, Gilles de Rais faced his final punishment. He was taken to an open field before a silent crowd. First, he was hanged. The rope tightened around the former marshal's neck until his body no longer moved. Then, as was customary for crimes deemed heretical and abominable, his body was burned in front of everyone. Some accounts say that his family managed to recover what remained of his ashes and give him a secret burial. And so, the man who had once been hailed as a national hero ended his life as an example of horror, reduced to ashes by his own choices. The story of Gilles de Rais is etched as one of the darkest of the Middle Ages, a man who walked from battlefields, applauded as a hero alongside Joan of Arc, to the cold halls of a castle consumed by fear and rituals. For many, he was one of the first documented serial killers in history. His figure inspired legends, plays, and even children's stories. Some say he was the basis for the tale of Bluebeard, the nobleman who locked his wives in secret rooms and hid his crimes. But the truth behind his life continues to divide opinions. Was he simply a monster, or also a victim of political and religious intrigues of his time? What is known is that his name, over 500 years later, still sends chills down the spine, a reminder that even the greatest glories can hide the darkest shadows. If you made it this far, take a deep breath. You've just walked the cold corridors of the mind of a man who was both hero and executioner. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so we can continue this journey together through stories as fascinating as they are dark. Until the next video.